Ravens versus the Bengals, the first divisional matchup between these two teams, a game that I have had circled on my calendar ever since the schedule was released. Let's talk about it. Let's talk Ravens with Yolanda. Today's video, we are going to discuss each player that makes up the offensive line. Good evening, Ravens flock. It feels so good to be back. I missed you all, and I'm happy to be back here talking all things Baltimore Ravens with you. We have a divisional matchup who I'm going to call a divisional rivalry. Yes, I know traditionally the Pittsburgh Steelers are the Ravens' divisional rival, but I don't know. Something about the comparison between Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow has made it just in like the last couple of years has really made it just a rivalry to me. And so I am really excited about this game. It's one that I had on my calendar since day one, since we knew our schedule. And the Bengals, if you would have asked me a month ago, or maybe more than a month ago, like 2 months ago, sometime in the off season, before the preseason, I would have told you, and I think I did, I said, I believe the Bengals are going to be fighting against us tooth and nail for the number 1 seed in the AFC North. Well, I was wrong about that because the Pittsburgh Steelers are number 1 right now. I know it's only been 4 games and it's not anywhere close to the end of the season, but at any rate, I did not believe that the Bengals would be in the basement trying to claw their way out in terms of the AFC North teams. So we are going to just talk tonight, if that's okay. I'm going to let you share more than I would normally share just because it's been a harrowing week, okay? I missed the live stream earlier. I didn't get a chance to recap our victory. Yes, our commanding victory. I didn't get a chance to do that, my apologies. I don't like to not be here with you. You all really are a highlight of my week. When I know that I get to live stream and just come and share time with you, it's really fun for me. So, but that said, my notes are not as prepared as I normally have them, but that's all right. Tonight, we're just going to kick back, relax, go off script, and just kind of enjoy the Baltimore Ravens because they have really seemed to step up their game and they've improved. And I've seen the improvement in them in the last couple of weeks. And we need to keep moving forward. I want to say hello to Tim Hughes, Connor, Odin. Thank you all so much for joining. I hope you all are doing well. Hope Connor and Odin are having a great start to their school year. Danity's in the house. Good evening, Danity. Thank you for being here. Yes, please. We are on the road to 1,000 and we are getting so close. You can help me. Please, as Danity said, hit the like button. It helps the channel out tremendously. While I'm over here just running my big mouth, just go ahead and hit the like button for me. Do that. And if you're new, welcome. Please subscribe, join the family, and make sure your seatbelt is fastened because we are going to be moving at warp speed through the season. We've got a lot of ground to cover. I see Brandon Bazel B Squared is here. The Rogue Pod. Deshaun, Slim Smith. Hello, we in here. Yolanda, good to see you, Slim Smith. Don Royal, Agnes. My mom is here. Gloria. I can't call her Gloria on camera. That's my mom, but that's her name. Gloria. Miss Bruce, Mama. Lady Laura Baltimore is here. Listen, the Baltimore Ravens are set to take on the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think this is going to be a really, really good game. I thought last week we made a statement, right? Last week's game was, to me, a statement game. We came out of the gate swinging, and I know this is not a recap of what happened last week against the Bills, but to open the game on our opening drive when we had, our opening offensive possession, that 87-yard touchdown by Derrick Henry, it really told me who we are as a team. We are, ground and pound. We are going to run the ball. We are going to force you to stop us. And we have just the right personnel to do that. We have Derrick Henry paired up alongside Lamar Jackson. So speaking of Lamar, He is someone in the chat. Let me know what his record is against the Bengals. I've seen conflicting reports. I don't know if it's 8-1 against Joe Burrow or if it's 8-2. If you know that, leave it in the comments if you'll do that for me. But it's not uncommon to hear that Joe Burrow is a much better quarterback than Lamar Jackson. And oh gosh, if you listen to the spicy Bengals fan base, they will have you believing, or they'll at least get you to think that Lamar Jackson is not a real QB. He's not a pocket passer. He's just, he's really an overrated running back. He's not really that dynamic quarterback. Well, I disagree. And I'm very much a person who is rooted in statistics and facts. I don't want to hear you yapping about this and that and oh my goodness, and my quarterback is better than yours. Okay, let's see, because your record is what it is, and you are what your record says you are, and the stats are what they are. So let's have a quick look at some of Lamar Jackson's stats, and then we'll compare Lamar Jackson's stats with that of Joe Burrow. Just have a little fun with it tonight, right? Before we do, I see Rave Kingdom has joined. Good evening. And Big Reg. Let's take a look at Lamar Jackson's stats in comparison to Mr. Joe Burrow. As we can see through 4 games, Lamar is averaging 214.5 yards per game in passing. He's averaging 1.3 touchdowns, passing touchdowns, 77 rushing yards, and his interception rate is 0.3. It should be 0.0, but Bateman, that interception was on you, but I'm really trying to let that go. So put a pin in these numbers, because let's look at Joe Burrow. So Joe Burrow's stats, not too far off from that of Lamar Jackson. He's averaging 244.5 yards passing per game, 1.8 touchdowns, 0.3 interceptions, and he's only averaging 9.5 rushing yards. So when we talk about when I hear conversations or comments being made about Lamar Jackson not really being it, and he's just not, he hasn't taken that next step, and he's still, he can only beat you with his legs because he's just, his arm is he's not accurate. He's lacking, focus, and he doesn't survey the field. He can't read a defense. Well, if we look at those stats and compare to that of Joe Burrow, is it that much of a discrepancy? All right. In the first of 2 divisional matchups between these two teams, I think after seeing last week against the Bills, I really think the Ravens have a charted path to victory. And tonight, I'm going to share with you what I think the Ravens need to do on offense, defense, and then we'll touch a little bit on special teams to secure this win. Starting with offense, we're going to start with where I always like to start. Offensive line. I'm so upset that I couldn't be here to recap the game, because I was going to give so much credit, and I'm going to do it now, to the offensive line. I was really concerned about this offensive line the first few weeks, and rightfully so. We did not have quality protection for Lamar Jackson. And seeing what I saw last week, and again, I don't ever like to see a player not be available because of injury, but being that we had to make some substitutions, and we found what I think was a pretty good formula moving forward to protect Lamar Jackson in terms of our O-line. And sure, I'm not going to say that I wish I would have seen Ben Cleveland out there, but that wasn't the case. So with the players that we had last week, we saw a shift, and I don't have my notes, but I think it was McCary who filled in at left guard, and alongside Ronnie Stanley, who I have to say, Ronnie Stanley has really been impressive this year. And I think we can all agree that I didn't really ever wonder if Ronnie Stanley would be good for us. It was just a matter of, could he be healthy? And if he was healthy, I didn't think there would be a problem. I knew he'd be a great left tackle. I figured that. He was going to be amazing at protecting Lamar's blind side, but it was just, could he stay healthy? He's been looking very good through the first 4 games. So keep it up. Keep it up. And going against this D line, really, you just have Hendrickson. That's really all you have. And let's have a quick look at the depth chart, because they have a lot of injuries that they're dealing with, or a lot of players who are listed as questionable. And so because of that, that leaves them in a kind of, a precarious situation. Like, how do you really get out there on your D line and your defense when you have so many players who are dealing with injuries or who are questionable? But let's just have a quick look at the Bengals depth chart. So in terms of their defense, you've got a lot of Q's on this list. Left defensive tackle, Sheldon, Rankins, questionable. Trey Hendrickson, who I think is probably the biggest name on the list, questionable. I think he had a stinger in the last game. And, last week, will he play? I don't know. This is probably going to be one of those kind of like John Harbaugh, it's a game time decision type thing. So we don't know. But you look at your middle, even to the linebackers. I was mainly focusing on the D line, but I'll move down the list since we have it on the screen now. But even the middle linebackers, you've got Jermaine Pratt is questionable. I missed the right defensive tackle. BJ Hill is also questionable. You've got several pieces, and going down to their secondary, Mike Hilton, questionable. This is one thing I think we can really I don't want to say take advantage of somebody else's weakness, because I want to see both teams as healthy as possible match up, because I don't want to hear any excuse. I do not want to hear any excuse why the Ravens were able to get away with the win. It's only because, half of our starters weren't playing, or they were on limited snap counts, or I don't want to hear that. I want to see both teams go head to head in a really healthy matchup, because that's always a good test for us, and for any team for that matter. But going back to our offensive line, other than Trey Hendrickson, I don't know of anyone that really gives me a whole lot of concern on that defensive line. I do think the Ravens still absolutely are going to get tested. The O-line is, and to see Daniel Falele play better last game against the Bengals was very calming. It helped calm my nerves a little bit. So I want Daniel Falele to continue. If we are going to continue with him as the starter at right guard, then I want to see him continue to take those steps in the right direction. And I saw that Voorhees was back at practice. Leave it in. I'm going to ask you in the chat. Do you think Voorhees will play this week? If he's cleared and if he's a go, do you think he will play? And if he does play, would you prefer him or would you prefer McCary? Let me know. So yes, the Hawk TV, good evening and welcome. Ravens can run roughshod over the Bengals. I think we can. And it certainly starts with Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, but it also goes back to that offensive line, who have been doing, a very good job. Not perfect by any means, but I will take improvement from where we were week one, where I would cringe every time, Lamar would take a snap. I'd just hold my breath, waiting to make sure that nothing happened to him, to now feeling a little bit more confident. Okay, I can watch the game and I can sit back and square my shoulders and I can yell at the television confidently that this O-line is going to block and create lanes for Derrick Henry. But yes, I'm seeing people are saying, yes, they think he's going to play. And yes, I expect to be tested. Lady Laura Baltimore says, I expect to be tested weekly. It'll make us better. Yep, it sure will. I don't want to go in to a game just, having a cakewalk. I don't want to go into a game having a panic attack either. I want us to be able to command the game. I want us to dominate the game from start to finish. That's what I want for these Ravens, and we can do it. The next key that I think we need to have on offense, continue to dominate the run game. It's working for us. That's not to say that we get stuck and the only thing we do is run the ball. No, we need to keep the defense guessing, because for them, what are they thinking, right? What are our opponents thinking as they play or get ready to face the Ravens, they're thinking, okay, this team is about to run the ball on us. Let's take away Lamar Jackson's ability to pass because we probably can't stop the run. Most teams can't. So let's force Lamar Jackson to have to pass the ball. And I think I said take away the pass. I meant to say try to stop the run. I don't think they can, but they're going to try it. They're going to try and they're going to force him to pass the ball. Okay, well, guess what? We just saw his stats. He's been doing a fine job of that. He's been doing a fine job of it. Can he get better? Of course he can. Sure. But our receivers have been showing up for the most part. Yes, we have some drops here and there. The last week, Mark Andrews in the Bills game, I was really upset. That one target he had, it was money. It was right there for him. You got to make that catch. Isaiah Likely, he has been phenomenal this year, not just in terms of pass catching, but his blocking. Wow. I don't know who would have known or who thought that he would grow so quickly in the league, but he is doing fantastic. Now, Nelson Aguilar, same thing. He's had some drops, but he's also made some significant contributions too. So with that said, make sure, Todd Monken, you continue to dial up a diverse game, one that's not super predictable, that every time we see Derrick Henry, it's an automatic run play. RPO works. Play action works because we have Derrick Henry. So allow Lamar to utilize that. And I heard on one of the pressers earlier in the week where there was buy-in from the other members of the team as to how the offense is going to flow. Meaning everybody might not get as many targets as they would like, but that's okay. And it has to be okay because why? Well, the formula that we're using, we're winning. And we did so in such a great fashion last week against the Bills. So we've got to keep doing the same thing because it works. Don't change up. Don't get cute and try and change things. It was working. The third thing on offense, we touched on it earlier. Take advantage of the defense for the Bengals because they are really struggling. Outside of Hendrickson, I don't know. Their secondary, even though they have Geno Stone, and I really wanted Geno Stone to stay with us, but wasn't to be. Their secondary hasn't looked good. Their secondary has not. So we need to continue to take advantage of the fact that their defense is not where I'm sure they want it to be, but it's just, it's not good at all right now. And I see Slim Smith says Bateman dropped a touchdown. He did. So that's what I'm saying. Our offensive weapons can certainly get better. But in the meantime, continue to use play action. It works. Let Lamar, on the RPO, he can decide whether it's going to be a run or a pass. He can do that. He can read a defense well enough to do it. And he's got the personnel to support him to where we keep the opposing defense guessing. Rafe Kingdom says, got to be careful because the Bengals defense are dirty players. They are dirty players. Yeah, they are, certainly. Sure. And another thing that you have to be careful about, that's a great point. We have to be careful because their backs are against the wall right now. This is a team who had all of the media hyping them up. You finally now have a healthy Joe Burrow entering this season. The expectation for the Bengals was that they were going to be, not my expectation, but just what you hear, the chatter that you hear. The expectation around the league was that the Bengals were going to be number one. They were taking the number one seed. Look where they are after 4 weeks. And so now they have to come out and prove themselves. They have to really, they have something to prove. And I don't want them to come out here and try and make a statement. I don't want us to get too comfortable and too casual with the fact that, their defense is just not doing the best. They are struggling right now, but I don't want us to get too casual and too, comfortable to where we don't come out firing on all cylinders. But yes, I do think we can take advantage of their defense. And I'm going to share a few of their stats just so that we can see what their defense or how their defense is performing so far. Okay, let me pull up I think it's this one. Yes. Looking at the defense for the Bengals, they are allowing how many yards per game? Their defense is giving up 326.8. They're averaging 326 yards per game. They're giving up 11 touchdowns. Now let's have a quick look at and remember those numbers. Look at those stats. Let's remember. Let's have a look at what the Ravens defense is able to do. By contrast, the Baltimore Ravens, they're giving up 315 yards per game, 9 touchdowns. So our defense struggled early on, but they've gotten better. And that's what leads me into the next point, which I think the Bengals are, they're going to be, I do think the Bengals are going to be a massive problem. I do. I think the problem for us is going to be, like I said, their back is against the wall. They have something to prove, and they're going to come out here and try to right the ship, so to speak, on our watch. We just can't let that happen. In their last few games, their first game of the season against the Patriots, the Bengals lost 16-10. The Chiefs, they lost 26-25. And I know that was a stinger because we know what a close game to the Chiefs, a loss to the Chiefs feels like. We know that. Commanders, they lost 38-33. And last week they got their first win against the Panthers, 34-24. But my point by saying that is they're able to score points. So let's transition now into what the defense needs to do. What does our defense need to do to secure this win? I think because I just read to you how they are able to score points and how they have been able to score points, it's going to be very crucial for our defense to show up. We know that the Ravens have one of the best run defenses in the league right now. Good evening. I see you, Equip Institute. Thank you, Florence, for being here. The defense is going to must contain Joe Burrow. And by doing that, you're going to have to apply a lot of pressure up the middle. We're going to have an excellent, outstanding game from our edge rushers. They're going to have to get after the quarterback and be able to put Joe Burrow on the ground. That's it. You cannot give Joe Burrow time in the pocket because with his dynamic weapons of Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, the connection between he and his receivers are there. And even to a lesser degree, Mike Gesicki, the tight end. Even to a lesser degree, they're able to connect. I just read to you that they were able to score points in these games, with the exception of the first game against the Patriots. I don't know what that was, but, other than that, they're putting up points on the board. And so you have to take into account the defense has to be able to have an answer. Most importantly, I think we need to make sure our linebackers, our secondary, protect the middle of the field and the deep zone. No miscommunication, no miscues. And I see you, Rod Wade. Travis Jones will get a sack. That would be wonderful. Speaking of sack, I fully anticipate Odafe Owe getting a sack on Joe Burrow. The reason I say that is because last year, it was during the Bengals game before Joe Burrow got injured. That's right. Odafe Owe with the sack on Joe Burrow. You saw it in the opening in my intro. I have that right there in the intro. But yes, so I think all of our players, Kyle Van Noy, he's just leading our team in sacks right now. But yes, it would be great to see Travis Jones get a sack. That would be wonderful. Matabike can get one too. Would love to see it. But certainly I'm banking on Odafe Owe, David Ojabo. We need to see something from David this week. David Ojabo. And what I want for Ojabo, Owe, I want them to not just apply pressure on the quarterback. That's good. But I want them to be able to bring it home, put it all together, and get the sack. Whatever you have to do, I want them to be able to do that, and I think they can. Don't let Chase and Higgins, whatever you do, whoever is set to cover Jamar Chase, whoever is set to cover T. Higgins, do not let them begin to get hot. Don't let them heat up on you. Don't do it, because Chase has so far 19 receptions for 300 yards, averaging just over 15 yards per carry, per catch. And he has 3 touchdowns. Mike Gesicki, too, 15 receptions for 147 yards. We cannot allow them to find their rhythm, to get in sync. So that means our secondary, our linebackers must be ready. All of the mishaps, missed tackles, not being sticky in coverage, having too much space between the offensive player and the defense, we can't afford that. These, as we all know, these offensive weapons are really, really good. That's why I said let's trade for T. Higgins a long time ago, but I move on. Speaking of trade, I'm about to take 2.5. I know we've moved on from the offense, but I meant to say this earlier, and I want to get your thoughts on this. This week, we've heard, I think effective, what was it, either yesterday or maybe today, it's been buzzing all over the news that Devante Adams has officially requested a trade. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the chat. Would you like us to pick up or at least make a trade for Devante Adams? But if you say yes, tell me what we have to give up to bring him here. Tell me what player would be a part of the trade package or draft capital would you be willing to relinquish in order to bring Devante here? I will say that, and I'll answer the question while I wait for you. I will say that a little while ago, a couple weeks ago, I thought it would be a great idea. I said, yeah, I can see that. Let's bring Devante Adams here. Now, as we have seen more of an offensive identity, I wonder, is that the right move? It would be great to have him here, but I would not want a disgruntled Devante, seeing as though the offensive weapons that we have right now, we're not really utilizing them consistently. Zay Flowers, he's not getting a bunch of targets. Nelson Aguilar, same thing. Rashad Bateman, same thing. We're spreading the ball around so much that there's not really, and I know what we call Zay Flowers, our wide receiver one, but there's really not been a lot of focus on any one wide receiver. So if we were to now bring in Devante Adams, knowing that our plan is to run Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, we have some plays, some screens to Zay, we have some short intermediate passes here and there to between Nelson, Zay, and Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews. Would we want to bring him in and then for him to be unhappy because, hey, he's not really getting a whole lot of targets? So let me know. So I'm going to take a few comments and then we'll wrap up with the last point that I think the defense needs to do to solidify a win in this game. Okay. So I see Danity says, my thoughts are absolutely give up the draft picks. Bring him here. Bring him hither. Go get Devante, relinquish draft picks. Any players that you would be willing to part from in order to bring him here, let me know in the chat. David Hunt says, no, he needs to go to the Patriots. Thank you for joining, David. He is our resident Patriots fan. And you're welcome. We took care of your division rival for you last week. And the Bills, I think we humbled the Bills because they were doing a whole lot of chirping in that fan base. So you're welcome. He's not coming here. Ravens don't. Yeah, I know. I know. I saw an article today where it said, it named like 3 or 4 teams that are interested or trying to make contact with Devante's agent or the front office in the Raiders camp to see if he can you know, if he's inclined to coming to their respective teams. And the Ravens were mentioned. Now, we're always in talks. That's something that I hear a lot. The Ravens are in talks. Stop it, Mr. Hendo, Mr. Whiffs. He is talking about Odafe Owa. He's not going to be Mr. Whiffs this time. He's actually going to get the job done. He does very good against Joe Burrow. Deshaun86 says, yes, a second round pick and one of those other draft picks we got from PQ. Deshaun, would you be willing to give up any players as a part of that draft package? And if so, from our current roster, who would you give? Zay and the other wide receivers will be the disgruntled ones. I think so too. Zay has already been a little disgruntled earlier on. And that was my point. We already have heard that Zay is not really happy or was not really happy after the first couple of weeks. And now he's not getting, a whole lot of targets because we're utilizing all of our players. Justice Hill is taking a very big part and a big role this year, much bigger than I would have thought. You can ignore my comments. No, absolutely not. No. Oh, this is a good take. Rod Wave says no to Adams. We just Sutton on the Broncos. You don't think, let me ask you this, Rod. You don't think that our offense would really be next level, like unstoppable, if we brought in Devante Adams? Because I would have thought the one thing that the Ravens needed was a true number one wide receiver, one who has a demonstrated history of knowing, their resume speaks for itself. They just know where to find the ball. They know how to go up and get those contested catches. And that, to me, is Devante. But I take your point. Adams quit on his team and complains about not getting the ball. That's what I'm saying. It's a balancing act. So I'm on the fence. I would love to see him here, if and only if he would want to be here, number one, but more importantly, number two, that he would understand, that this is not going to be a situation where he is commanding the ball. It's not one of those things. So, Deshaun86, he would trade Mark Andrews. Ooh, I asked that the other day on one of our other streams. And Danity says, I would toss Andrews in a heartbeat to get, oh boy, goodness, we just get rid of Mark Andrews. Ooh, I can't blame you. Dewan 100 said, if Harb switches 66 and 70, it will open up our offense up way more because they are better players. And with that change and adding Adams, we will not lose another game this season, even with having Harbs as the head coach. Now that is a fact. Well stated and understood. Thank you. Rodney, hi. Thank you for being here. Glad to see you. And Lady Laura Baltimore says, no, they are going to all be like, look, Hollywood asking to leave. That's the problem, right? That's the problem. That's what I see being an issue now. Because if we bring in Devante and the wide receivers that we currently have are already not getting a lot of passes and, thrown their way. But I honestly think he wants to go he wants to go and be reunited with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. That's what I think. That's where I see him going. I know you don't want to hear that, David, because that's your other division rival, but that's what I can see. Because at the end of the day, he's going to want to be happy and he's going to want to be number one and not have a close second. And Aaron Rodgers and him have that history. They have that chemistry. It would absolutely be that for him if he were to go to the Jets. I don't want to see that. I certainly don't, but I can see it happening. Last thing, a couple more things for the defense. As I said before, protect the middle of the field. No miscommunications. We saw an improvement in our secondary last week, but we need to see more of that. And one thing we need to continue to do is to be aggressive. We need to attack. And I said this before, no missed tackles, finish the drive, no miscommunications. But more than anything, I want to see some turnovers created by this defense. Last week, Nate Wiggins left 2 or maybe 3 interceptions on that field. Understand, I know Nate Wiggins is a rookie, but the expectation is if you see ball, you get ball. If it's thrown in your direction and it's right there in your breadbasket, you come down with that interception. So this defense needs to create some turnovers. We need to have Joe Burrow pressured so much that he's throwing interceptions. We need to have forced fumbles. We need to have tackles for loss. And certainly not a repeat for Nate Wiggins this week. That's what I think is the key for us on defense to solidify this game. And someone made a comment earlier. I don't remember. I saw it, but I don't remember who made it. But they said, finish the game, basically. Fourth quarter, we cannot have a collapse. Our defense cannot fall flat. And part of that, too, goes back to the offense, not having consecutive 3 and outs. Because if you do, you're not giving your defense a time to rest. If you're just constantly putting them back on the field. And we don't want to see Joe Burrow on the field too much because we know at any moment, although their record does not display what I know they can do, they can heat up. It's just a matter of when will they do it. Let's not let it be on our time. So Agnes says turnovers are coming. I hope so. And I hope they come this week. Rod Wave says Wiggins said the lights were too bright. Ooh. Well, guess what? He's going to have to, I don't know what he's going to have to do, but he's going to have to get used to the bright lights, but it cannot blind him. It cannot, steer him in the wrong direction. He's going to be able to make those plays. So that's what we need for us to come out with a win. Special teams. I was very happy that Tucker made all of his field goals. Certainly that was a boost of confidence for him. So let's see more of that this upcoming week. And I think before we go, let me know what your score predictions are for the game. Who wins? And tell me the score. And Don Royal says, Brandon Stevens is an issue and Marcus Williams. I'll take 2 seconds to speak on that while you all put your score predictions in the chat. Brandon Stevens, but more importantly, Marcus Williams. Marcus Williams, for the amount of money that we paid him. And I just haven't seen the level of production from him that I want to see for what we're paying him. I appreciate that in that secondary, Marlon Humphrey has stepped up over these last couple of games. He's playing much better. He's playing much, much better. I'm thankful for that. Now we need to see that from Marcus Williams. Brandon Stevens I think he's a bit of a mixed bag. For the most part, I think he's really good. I think he's good. Not great. Certainly not to the level of, and going back to Marcus Williams, we need better from him. We do. I said it. I said what I said. There you go. So yes, Don Royal, Marcus Williams. Hopefully this is it. And the fact that we now have what we've all heard, a healthy Marcus Williams this year, because last year we know he was playing through an injury, basically with a torn, basically one arm. He's healthy this year. So why aren't we seeing the production? So let's take a couple of comments. I see that you have dropped your predictions in the chat. Let's see. Rodney, Baltimore 24-21. Who do the Panthers play this week? And let me know, Rodney, since Rodney is our Panthers fan, who's winning your game? Who's winning your matchup? Rave Kingdom says the Ravens 30, Bengals 17. And Brodney says 24-21. That's a little too close for me, Brodney, but because then my nerves get bad, okay? I'm watching the game, and when the game is so close, my nerves start getting bad. I get nervous. Mr. Chad 1205. Hi there. I don't know that I've ever seen you before, but if this is your first time, ooh, that was a tongue twister. If this is your first time, thank you for being here and welcome. Baltimore 42-17. Now, I like how you think, Mr. Chad 1205. I like that. That would mean that I would have pretty much a stress-free game so long as the Ravens don't go into the fourth quarter and start to fall asleep on defense. Agnes says 28-3, Ooh, 3 points, Agnes? They have a very good offense. I don't know. That would be nice. That would be nice. I said what I said. Oh, and I think I rubbed off on Yolanda. I know. I got that from you. And so now look at that. See, this is why I love coming to talk with you. You all share, you all say some of the great, most creative things. And I'm like, oh, I need to incorporate that in my dialogue. Chef Jew, good evening to you. Thanks for being here. Ravens have a lot to little bit. Tell me what you mean, Hawk TV. Let me know what you mean. Mr. 99 said Pastor Lopez has a song called Yolanda. I love it. Go Ravens. All right. Rogue Pod says 28-24 Ravens. All right. I'll give you mine. I'll let you know what I think the score will be. Definitely think the Ravens are winning. Definitely think the Ravens are taking this one. I'm going to go with 34-28 Ravens. 34-28 Ravens. And I'm with you, Rod. Wade. Just win. Just whatever you do, just go out there and win the game. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much. I appreciate each one of you. And if you enjoyed hanging out with me tonight, make sure that you come back on Sunday during halftime, where I will do a Sunday halftime check-in. And we just talk about what we're doing right in the first half and what we're not doing right and what we need to do differently, what adjustments need to be made before we go into the second half. It's very short, but I just want to hear how you're vibing during the game. So make sure you come back. And then Rod Wave says, can't we trust Tucker this week? Yeah, I think we can. I think we can trust Tucker. His confidence, I believe, is coming back, especially after nailing every single one of his field goals last week. So I'm going to believe in him. Yay, Jeff J. Good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. We remember how they ran up the score. We're going to punish them 36-20. Yes, that's what I like to hear. You guys are talking my language. Oh, if I had my pom-poms, I would get them. But, I don't want to do that because then I'll go off on a tangent and we'll be here for another 30 minutes. And I promised I wouldn't do that. Nisha C., good evening. Thank you for being here. Yes, on your way out, please do me a favor, hit the like button. And if you are new, thank you, thank you, thank you. Subscribe, join the family because we are on the road to 10K. I will see you all very soon. Until next time, you take care, stay safe, and always remember, go Ravens. God bless.